Troy was one of the richest cities in the ancient world. Walls thick enough to laugh at an army. A position so good, it could tax anything that floated past. It lasted 1,000 years. Then, it made about 8 decisions in a row, each one somehow stupider than the last. And now, it's a hill in Turkey with a gift shop. This is how you lose a city. It starts at a wedding. 2 gods are getting married, and the guest list is basically everyone who has ever existed. Every god, every goddess, every minor spirit of every minor puddle. Except one, Eris, goddess of discord. Now, if you are throwing a party, and there is exactly one guest you're worried might ruin it, and that guest's entire personality is ruining things, you have 2 options. Invite her and manage it, or don't invite her and find out. They found out. Eris turns up anyway, because of course she does. And she doesn't smash anything, she doesn't curse anyone. She rolls a single golden apple into the middle of the room with 3 words written on it. For the fairest. And then she leaves. That's it. That's the whole attack. 3 goddesses immediately start arguing about who it belongs to. Nobody will back down. And the argument gets escalated, the way arguments do, until it lands on a desk that absolutely should not have received it. Zeus, king of the gods, holder of the thunderbolt, is asked to judge which of 3 goddesses is the most beautiful, one of whom is his wife. And Zeus, showing the only competent instinct anyone displays in this entire story, says, absolutely not. So he outsources it. He hands the most dangerous question in the universe to a teenage Trojan prince who is at that moment on a hillside herding sheep and has no idea any of this is happening. His name is Paris. Here's the part everyone forgets. Paris isn't asked to judge fairly. He's immediately, openly bribed by all 3 to his face. One offers him power, rule over kingdoms, empires. One offers him wisdom and victory in every battle he ever fights. And one offers him the most beautiful woman in the world. And Paris, prince of a city with walls and money and a future, looks at power, looks at wisdom, looks at the woman, and picks the woman. Which would be fine. That's a normal amount of stupid for a teenager. The problem is the most beautiful woman in the world is already married. She's called Helen. And Helen is married to Menelaus, king of Sparta. Sparta, of the Spartans. You may have heard of them. And Menelaus has a brother. His brother is Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, who is at this point roughly the most powerful man in the Greek world, and has been quietly waiting his entire life for a reason to sail east. But it's worse than that, because years earlier, when every prince in Greece wanted to marry Helen, her father saw the fight coming and made all of them swear an oath first. Whoever she picks, the rest of you defend that marriage. Forever. Every king in Greece is contractually obligated to come to Troy. So Paris sails to Sparta as a guest, is fed, is housed, is treated with honor, and leaves with the host's wife. The Greeks arrive, 1,000 ships, and they park. Now Troy has one obvious move here. Send her back. Send back the treasure Paris also took, because he took treasure as well. Apologize. Blame the boy. Watch them sail home. Priam, king of Troy, Paris's father, a man with 50 sons and apparently no favorites, decides instead that his son should keep her. And that decision cost Troy 9 years of siege. 9 years. Not of battles, of sitting. Of an army camped on your beach eating your farmland while you watch from a wall. At any point in those 9 years, one man could have ended it by saying, "Give her back." Nobody says it. Year 9. And here, the Greeks nearly hand Troy the win, because Agamemnon picks a fight with his own best warrior, Achilles, over stolen property. Achilles storms off to his tent and refuses to fight. The Greeks start losing. Badly. Troy is winning. Then Achilles' closest friend, Patroclus, borrows Achilles' armor to scare the Trojans back, and it works. And he gets carried away, and Hector, Prince of Troy, kills him. Hector kills the man in Achilles' armor. And this is the single worst thing that happens to Troy in the entire war. And it happens on a day Troy is winning. Because Achilles has spent 9 years being the most dangerous person on that beach, sulking in a tent, doing nothing. And Troy has just given him a reason. Achilles comes back. And what he does to the Trojan army is not really a battle. Hector's family screams at him from the wall to come inside. Get behind the stone. That's what the stone is for. The walls have held for 9 years. They will hold for 10. Hector stays outside. He fights Achilles in front of the gate. He loses. And Achilles ties him to a chariot and drags him around the city, while everyone Hector has ever loved watches from the battlements. Troy has now lost its best defender, its air, and its nerve in one afternoon outside a perfectly good wall. You know this one, but you may not know the worst detail. The Greeks vanish. Ships gone, beach empty. 9 years of siege, over, apparently. And all they've left behind is an enormous wooden horse. Troy comes out to look at it, and two people, say what everyone watching this is thinking. A priest called Laocoon, who says, "Do not trust this." And Cassandra, the king's own daughter, who is cursed to always be right and never be believed, and who tells them flatly that the city burns tonight. Laocoon is killed by sea serpents. Cassandra is ignored. And here is the detail. The horse is too big to fit through the gates. They have a choice. They could leave it outside, burn it, push it into the sea. Instead, they tear down part of their own wall to get it in. The wall. The only thing that has worked for 9 years. They demolish a section of it, by hand, to make room for the surprise present left by the army that has been trying to kill them since before some of them were born. Then, they throw a party. So, how much of that is real? There is a real Troy. It's a mound called Hisarlik in Turkey, and it's not a myth, it's a real city with real walls. And there's a layer of it, archaeologists call it Troy 7A, that shows a city under siege. Crowded houses, food stored in jars sunk into floors, and then fire, bodies in the streets. Around 1180 BC, Hittite records from the same era mention a city out that way called Wilusa, and a king with a name that sounds a lot like the other name for Paris. Something happened here. Something bad enough to be remembered for 3,000 years. There is no horse. There has never been a horse. Some think it's a siege engine remembered wrong. Some think it's an earthquake, because the god who levels cities is also the god of horses. Nobody knows. Which brings us to the final dumbest mistake in the story of Troy. And it isn't Trojan. In the 1870s, a businessman named Heinrich Schliemann went looking for Troy, and found it, and became famous for it. He found it by digging an enormous trench straight down through the middle of the mound. No records, no layers, just a hole. And in doing so, he blasted clean through the level of the city he was actually looking for, and destroyed a large amount of it forever. 3,000 years. Bribes, oaths, a stolen wife, a wall torn down by its own defenders. And the most damage anyone ever did to Troy was done by a man who was trying to find it. Troy's walls survived everything except the people standing next to them.